So you're here for the good stuff. I got you covered. So it's time to start moving past the demo applications for AI agents and start building some real practical production use cases. The kind of use cases that you can use for your clients to speed up your own business and to maybe even build a startup on. So today we're going to be building something really useful, a company research crew. So basically what we'll do is we're going to use a suggested or attached file, taking the rows in that file, it's going to be a CSV file. We're going to search the web for similar information on a new company. If you're new to CrewAI, here's a reminder of the three core elements. We have a task, an agent, and a tool. And of course, there's also the crews themselves, processes, asynchronous, hierarchical, synchronous, etc. But we don't need to know all of that for this tutorial. We have the agent that carries out the tasks. We have the tasks that are more specific on what you want to do. And then we have tools such as the file read tool, the web search tool, you can have a PDF, RAG search, etc. Lots of tools being added all the time. So we're going to be using two different agents and two tools in this tutorial. We have a company research agent who is going to use a file read tool and a Google search tool via Serper. So a file read tool essentially allows us to pull a file from a directory. In our case, it's going to be a CSV file, read that, and also to be able to write to it as well. And the Google search will allow our agent to search the web for the relevant information. Our second agent, so when this company researcher is finished researching the company and all the rows it needs to fill in, it's going to pass that data to our data entry agent, who is going to use the file write tool, which essentially is the same one as the file read, file write, and write a new column of fields to our CSV file with all the new information that the company researcher has found. So here's an example of the file that I'm providing. So I want to get the following information on selected companies: company name, address, their socials, a mission statement, founded date, etc. And I'm going to be using that to populate a separate database. Now, there's a number of different ways that I can get this in real life. I can go and search for that myself and fill this out row by row, but that's going to take several minutes. Second thing I could do is use a database like ZoomInfo or Crunchbase or BrandFetch and create an API call to pull that information, and they will supply that at a certain rate per each field or per company that I'm requesting. So in my case, I'm going to be expanding this company research tool to pull in a lot more information like career info, images from the website, and other different things like that. And that's going to be beyond the scope of what I've seen available via ZoomInfo or Crunchbase. So I'm deciding to do this in CrewAI. In this case, we're going to be using Python 3.11. We're going to be using Conda or mini Conda specifically for environment management. You can also use VENV or any other tool you want, but this is the one I find that works best, and also VSCode. Okay, we're going to start with VSCode. So first we want to add a folder to our workspace. So I've already gone ahead and created a folder. You can create that wherever you want. It can be in the desktop or anywhere you usually create your production files. So go here and then go to open folder and select that folder. So now I've got that folder selected and added to the VSCode workspace. So next thing we want to do is open our terminal. So let's go up here. And here you can see I've already got Miniconda installed. So you'll see that I've got this base written here just in front of my prompt. That's telling me what virtual environment I'm currently running. So just a quick reminder on environments. You might have multiple different versions of Python installed on your system or one that's not compatible with this particular project. I'm using Python 3.11 here in this case, and it seems to work best with CrewAI. So we want to set up an environment specifying that we're using that version of Python, and then also making sure that we isolate and keep all the packages that are brought down in that environment. So we're going to use this command here, Conda create new CrewAI, which is the name of the environment, Python 3.11-y, and hit return. I've already done that, so you just go ahead and do that yourself. So once that command has run, you can go ahead and actually activate that environment. So in this case, I'm typing in Conda, activate, and the environment that we've specified, CrewAI. So now you can see right here, we've got CrewAI listed in front of our prompt. So that's telling us what prompt we're running. Now let's type in pip install CrewAI tools to this environment. Now I've already installed this, so it's going to run through and tell me that the requirements are already met. It's going to take a few minutes, so now is a good time to take a break, or maybe go and hit that subscribe button or the like button. It takes ages to make these videos, to edit them and put them together, and I've just a small channel, so it really makes a huge difference to me. Any kind of support that you can show, so I can come back and make more videos. If you're just getting familiar with CrewAI, the website is fantastic. You can go and run through the documentation. It explains all the core concepts, which is really key, and very interesting is all the tool documentation, which seems to be expanding all the time. And if you want to play with some use cases, there's some great examples down here on the right hand side. For now, what we're interested in is the framework. So on GitHub, you can see the whole framework itself that would have been installed when we typed pip install. And then you can also see some really useful boilerplate here. So we're actually going to copy this as starting point for our crew. So let's go back to VSCode again. And let's create a new file here. And I'm going to call this file company-crew, the name of the language model that I'm using in this case, and a versioning system. This is just a dev version of the file. Production would be much different, but I like to name it in a very verbose way so that I understand what I'm running, because often I'll run multiple versions of these files when I'm testing. So let's paste in the boilerplate. We can remove the terminal for now to take a look. So if you're seeing these squiggly lines here, it's indicating that we might be using the wrong environment because it can't find these packages. So let's go down here to the interpreter, and we can find our CrewAI to make sure that's selected. And now you'll see that it's able to resolve where those packages are. And let's just click save. So I'm not going to go too deep into this boilerplate, but it is a really good way to just get your head around how CrewAI works. So we have, of course, we're importing CrewAI, we're importing agent, task, crew, and process, and then CrewAI tools. And in this case, we're using the SERPer dev tool. So that allows us to search using Google, using a separate service. In here, we would paste in our API key for OpenAI and the API key for serper.dev. We can also choose to use a local model via Ollama. And if you don't know what Ollama is, I've got a video on that. You can check it out, but it allows you to run and pull down local versions of models like Llama 2, Llama 3, Mixtral, etc. You can also set it up to use Groq, which is a really fast way of running models in the cloud. They're using like different GPU architecture. Here we're saying that, okay, the search tool, we're instantiating it and saying that it's the SERPer dev tool. And here we're defining our first agent. So in this case, we have a researcher agent. We're giving it a role and giving it a goal and a little bit of a backstory so it knows what its task is and what it's being used for. You can set the logging to be true so that you'll see in the logging as it runs exactly what's happening. I recommend doing that. We're telling it that it can use this particular tool, which is the search tool, and that we're setting delegation to false. It's not going to be passing this to anyone else. You can actually decide to set specific models for each one. So you can actually decide what model each particular agent uses, but if you don't, it'll just default to GPT-4. We've got a second agent, which is a writer, in this case, a tech content strategist, and it's got a backstory that it's a renowned content strategist. You can really play with these and see what works. So then we have the important parts, which is the task. So we're basically saying conduct a comprehensive analysis in the latest advancements in AI, and it's giving the expected output in bullet points. And we're telling it that it needs to assign this task to the researcher. Same applies for task 2. It's got a different expected output. It's saying take the bullet points and turn that into a blog post. So you can see how a chain is happening here. We start with a research agent, and then we move through and it gets passed to a content strategist to actually create. I recommend starting with 1 or 2 agents just to understand how the process works and expand from there. So then we're actually instantiating our crew. We're saying that we are going to use the researcher and the writer, and you've got task 1 and 2, and verbose means that we're setting it to the highest level of logging so that we can see exactly what's going on. And this actually kicks everything off. So we're going to need our API key to paste in here. And we're also going to need our SERPer API key as well. So let's go and see how we can do that. So in order to search the web, we can use an API. I'm recommending serper.dev. It's heavily supported by CrewAI. You'll get a certain amount of free queries. If you want, you can set up your own API in your own system to search the web, but to just get started and test, this is perfectly fine. So we sign in. So once you've signed in, you can go to API key and you can copy that key, and we can go back and paste that into our SERPer key right here. And I will be resetting this before I publish the tutorial. So next up, you're going to need your API key for ChatGPT-4. This is a paid service. You're going to need to sign up at platform.openai.com if you already haven't, and add a certain amount of credits to your account. You can also run CrewAI for free using a local model like Ollama or using Groq. But to be honest, GPT-4 and GPT-3 seem to be the most successful when running CrewAI at the moment. You could decide then to use some of the other local models on other elements of processing, but I think for high level reasoning, GPT-4 seems to be the best at the moment. Haven't seen any support for Anthropic's models yet. So to get that API key, we go over here, API keys. You can create a new secret key. Let's call this CrewAI version 3. So the idea of projects is a new concept. Before, we just had our personal API keys, but assigning it to a specific project is a good idea because you can see the usage based by project in the analytics. Okay, so once we've got the key copied, we can go back again and paste it in here. So now you have everything in place to run this basic example. So let's give it a go. Open your terminal. Make sure that you've got the right environment running. So in order to run the file, we just type Python and then the script we want to run, or you can also just press play up here. So I had to take a quick break to go and add more credits to my account. If you ever see this error, insufficient quota, you need to go and update your funds. These agents can be expensive when you're running a lot of testing. Okay, so it ran through the whole process with no issues. It entered the Crew executor chain. It started to run and do some search results based on the ideas of the latest advancements in AI. Pulled in a lot of different search results from our SERPer API. Then it says these search results provided several different sources of advancements, and then it decided it wanted to go deeper again. And it's giving us these key trends. Now it's moving to the next agent, the tech content strategist. And in the end, we have our outputted post: introduction, key trends, breakthrough technologies, all based on the previous search. So that's pretty cool. So now let's take it to the next level. Okay, so that's the basic example of CrewAI running in research mode. Now, so let's copy that file and let's start working on our more advanced version. So we have version 2 here. So the first thing we're going to need is a new tool, which is the file read tool. So that allows us to read and write to files in our directory. Then we're also going to need to add that in here. So let's add our file read tool in here. So let's instantiate our file read tool here, and we're going to need to pass it a file. So we put in file path equals, and we don't actually have any file in there, so we're going to copy in the file so that we can read from that. So I've just copied in the file. If you want a similar file, you could just create it yourself, or you can get it from my GitHub for this particular project, which I'll share in the details down below. So I'm calling it employee details.csv. So let's just link to that here. So taking a look at our CSV, you can see the various different columns and the different rows. Each one of the rows is indicating to the language model what we want to have populated for each search that's done. And it's giving example information so that it knows it needs to pull in something similar. Okay, so we're going to take our first agent and delete that. And I've replaced our first agent with our new improved agent. So this agent's job is data research to gather information on engineering companies. So you are a research and data expert. Using existing samples, you will find similar info on new companies via the search tool to pass to the data entry agent. And we're using the tools, the file read tool and the search tool, which we have set up here. So now we're defining our second agent, which is our data entry agent. So you are a data entry expert taking the data from the research agent. You will add it to the file as a new column. Now for our first task, it's the research task. So using the example file, research answers for each of the rows for a company called variable. So we'll be inputting the variable for that company down below here in a second. So in terms of expected output, new input for company, so the data entry agent can add them to the file. So basically we're telling the research agent here that it needs to carry out this task about this company, and here's the expected output, and we're going to use these tools. In our second task here, we're calling it the entry task, and we're going to take the research from the researcher agent above and add it to the file for the company. And the expected output is a new input for the company as a new column similar to the sample data in this file here, employee details. And the output file is going to be employee details underscore output. We can actually have it write to the original employee details file, and it will actually add in a new column. But in this case, I'm actually going to create a whole new file so we can keep using this as our base as we test. And so lastly, then we're going to set up our crew. So we're saying that the agents are the researcher and the data entry agents. So data entry and researcher. The tasks are the research task and the entry task. And we're setting the logging to verbose. They're the highest level of logging so that we can see exactly what's happening. And this is really good for troubleshooting. If you want to get a more detailed level of troubleshooting, you can use a plugin like Agent Ops, or you can look at the SerperDev history to see what kind of searches are being called. All of these are just ways you can get a deeper insight into what's happening. And then we're going to print a result. And of course, we have our crew kickoff here. And so what we're doing here is we're entering the name of the company that we want to research. So I'm going to call it, in this case, relativityspace.com. So relativityspace.com. Yeah, that's spelled correctly. And that's going to be our input. So we should have everything we need there. So let's go ahead and click save. Let's open our terminal. We don't seem to have any problems, which is great. And we can switch over to terminal here. Clear previous. Make sure that we've got the right environment running. And then we can run the script by typing Python and make sure to run the right version of the file. Okay, so it's starting the task using the example file provided. And you can see here that it's actually pulled in the file successfully and it's reading. Now that I understand the type of information required, I will use the internet search to find similar information about relativity space. And now it's going to search for relativity space. And now we can see these search results are starting to come back. It's looking at Crunchbase, YouTube, finding out more about their mission. Okay, so I've found some information about the company from the search results. Now I need to arrange the information in a required format. So now it's actually putting it into a CSV file, which is amazing. So that chain is finished. So that's all the data research completed. Now it's moving over to the data entry agent and it's starting the task, entering new crew agent executor chain, reading the file's content again. That's probably a redundant step, but let's see what it's doing. It's taking the input from the first agent. And now, awesome, it's actually inputting the data in the next column of the CSV. And it's running the output. Okay, so let's take a look. We have here the outputted file. So we have company name, relativity space. That's the correct address. That is the correct LinkedIn. Didn't seem to find the Twitter or Instagram. Has found the YouTube, launching the future of humanity into space. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And didn't seem to find some of these other details here. Okay, so that's a good start, but yet not ideal. Let's try it for another company. Okay, so let's try this for another company just to be sure it's working. So I'm going to put in here the address for Blue Origin. So let's save that. I'm also going to change the file name to the original to see if it'll overwrite it or if it'll actually add a new row as an experiment. And yeah, everything else looks good. Clear this and let's run the command again. Okay, so this time we're going to time it and see how fast it is. Okay, great. So that was 1 minute and 14 seconds. Let's take a look at the output. So let's take a look at employee details. So yeah, it's actually preserved the original file. And now we have Blue Origin, the address. We have Twitter, Instagram. We have YouTube. We have a correct mission statement. We have a number of them when it was founded. Okay, so this is obviously wrong. The company size is not 10 people. But then we have this break here. This is the CSV problem. So it's actually 10,000 employees plus, and it's based in Kent. So let's just double check that to see if it's correct. 11,000. Okay, so absolutely spot on there. So super impressive. So in terms of testing, we've run it with 2 companies. The first one is probably a lesser known company. It wasn't as successful. It left out some details. Blue Origin is a much larger company. There's more available details for it on the web. and it gave us that information back. So in this case, maybe a hybrid approach is needed where you'd use a secondary API to fill in the blanks, or just have a human come along and fill in any gaps that are in there. But still, it's a big time saving to be able to go and pull in the primary information and not have a human do that. Okay, so now we have it successfully running with ChatGPT 4. As a bonus, let's see how it works out with other models. So if we go back to our file here again, let's actually create a new file based on this one. So I've created a new file called Company Crew Groq version 1. So it's just a copy of the GPT file. Okay, so first of all, let's comment out this. First off, let's comment out the API key. We can leave the SERPer API key. And then let's replace this with our Groq information. So here we're telling it that we want to use the Groq API. So you can use this URL. We're going to use the model name LLama3, the 70 billion model. Oops. And then the API key for Groq, we're going to paste in here. Next thing you'll need is a Groq API key. So you can just go to console.groq.com/playground. Then you can get your API key and create a new key, and then you can copy and download that key. At the time of recording this tutorial, you'll often get an error where you get a rate limit from Groq. The way to work around that is just to set the number of requests and reduce it. So currently Groq is free. It's operating on a free credit basis. I assume it's going to be paid at a later stage, but right now on the free tier, you have a certain rate limit. And if you exhaust that, it'll just cancel your script and it's not going to work. So setting this max RPM seems to be a way of getting around that for now. And let's just delete those two commas there and click save. No problems with the file. Okay, let's run that and see how we get on. Once again, we're typing in Python and the name of our file and hit return and cross our fingers. Okay, let's see how it ran. So, okay, it initiated okay. We need to find information about Blue Origin. It was able to read the employer details CSV. It pulled in the sample information fine. I need to find information about Blue Origin. And it was able to search the web fine. Max RPM reached. Okay, so our requests per minute worked fine and it stalled there for a minute. Okay, so I've gathered enough information about Blue Origin. Now we have this error here, action none. These are the only available actions. So I'm not sure what's happening. We didn't see this happen with GPT-4, and it's still able to call the tools without issue. So it was able to read and write files and search. So unless there's some hidden action in there that it's reading that I'm not seeing, I'm not sure, but it didn't seem to stop the flow or the tools running. Okay, I need to organize the information I gathered about Blue Origin. It reached another maximum request, kept going, and then I now can give a great answer. So I don't understand why, but it seemed to loop around several times before coming to this point, and I can now give a great answer. So yeah, this is right, that's right. This is also right. I verified that was correct. To enable millions of people living and working in space. That's correct. Founded. Correct. Yeah, all this is absolutely spot on. What we can see here is that maybe 2 agents in this simplistic chain is not necessary. In fact, I actually have tried this with 1 agent and it also works just as well. We don't necessarily need a second agent here to do data entry. We can have the first agent just do the research and do the entry. And you can see how it actually was very capable of doing that here. Adding a data entry step seems to be overkill in this case. And we want to keep it simplistic and we want to reduce the number of API calls. So the next time around, I'd probably just assign 1 agent here. Where it can be a good idea to have multiple agents is just to troubleshoot and to have different tools that are being used and more complex workflows. In this case, we have an agent that basically are using the same tools, so maybe it's not as necessary to have have those tasks divided. But if the second agent was calling APIs or doing something else that was more complicated, there's probably a good reason to have it. So despite Llama 3 going on several loops, it actually does a great job on pulling together all the content. Better, much so in this case, than GPT-4. So this is all correct information and all the fields have been filled, and that wasn't necessarily the case with GPT-4. So we've tried GPT-4, we've tried Llama 3 via Groq. Now let's try a local model using Ollama. Okay, so a few things going on here. First of all, from LangChain OpenAI, we're importing Chat OpenAI. I know it says OpenAI here, but this is just the historical way that it was set up, but it'll pull in any model. Down here, we're instantiating LLM from this class, and we're pulling in model CrewAI version 2 Llama 3. So I'm going to explain what this is in a second. And then the base URL is where Ollama is running locally on your machine. So that's the great thing about Ollama. It's basically running the whole time at this address. Now, importantly, we need to put in an API key as NA. Otherwise, you're going to get errors, which I ran into when I didn't have this set up. It's still looking for an OpenAI API key. So we just put in NA to get past that. Okay, so next thing you're going to do is we're going to need a model file. With the model file, we're basically setting up these parameters. We're saying pull from Llama 3. We're setting a temperature, and I'm going to show you how. Let's save that. Come back over here to our terminal. So now what we want to do is, oh yeah, sorry, we skipped a bit here. So if you haven't got Ollama running already, you can basically just go to the website, install it. It works on Mac, Linux, or Windows. And once you've got that running, you can actually start to pull down models. So basically in your PowerShell or terminal, you can just type Ollama list. If you haven't any models pulled down, this will be empty. Here's all the models that I've pulled down previously. So you can go to Ollama and the models registry page and just take the name of the model that you want to pull down, and then you would just type in Ollama run and then type in the name of the model that you. So Llama 3 will be the 8 billion model, the one that you can run locally. Okay, so now what we want to do is basically set up our own model that we're going to be using with our crew. So to do that, we'll type in. So to do that, we're going to type in Ollama create CrewAI. In this case, I'm going to call it CrewAI version 2 Llama 3. And here's the file that we want to look at, the model file, which is in this root directory, and we have it stored here. So basically setting that up will set up a model file and these parameters so that whenever we're running this particular tag here, it's going to run it on this basis. It's going to use the same model, but it's going to set the temperature and put in our stop parameters. Okay, so once you hit that, that should run fine. I've done that already, so I'm not going to do it here again. So again, what we'll need to make sure of is that we have the right model in here. So you can see CrewAI version 2 Llama 3, and here we have it again marked here, and of course we've got the Ollama address. Now what's important next is that our agents and tools know what large language model to use. So we've set it up here as LLM, so we need to go down here and make sure we've got LLM equals LLM in this case. Okay, so I've also cleared out the employee details CSV, so we've got a clean start again. This time we're running Python company crew Ollama version 1.py, and then let's hit return. So not as successful as I would have liked using LLama3 8 billion locally with Ollama. It's worked fine for me on other projects, but in this case it seems to be just caught in a action input where it goes over and over trying to read the file content with no success. We're running exactly the same script as we were with GPT-4, GPT 3.5. Not exactly sure why, but at least now you know how to set up Ollama and use Llama 3 and other local LLMs. So here's a quick summary of the results. GPT-4 was 90% accurate. It missed out on some fields. If the company was a bigger company, it managed to get more information. Obviously, there was more to pull from the internet. Llama 3 70 billion model via Groq was super fast, but then we had to rate limit it because the subscription plans aren't in place yet for Groq. But it was a little bit more accurate than GPT-4 in the searches, which was actually really interesting. And then using Ollama, the Llama 3 8 billion model, it didn't work out for us in this case. I'm going to dig into that a little bit further to see what the problem was, but I ran out of time for this tutorial. But at least you know now how to set up Llama and Ollama together to run it on some other projects. So I hope you found that helpful. If you'd like to learn more about CrewAI, I highly recommend their Discord. I'll link it in the description. And if you've got any questions about any part of this tutorial, or if you're having any issues, please drop it in the comments below and I'll do my best to step you through and to help you. Thanks so much.